Hello and welcome to the Art of Life project. It is really, really good to have you here. My name is Tash Mitch. I am a life coach and an energy alchemist. And today on the Art of Life project, I'm going to be talking to Radavie Riom. So I hope you enjoy. Hello, Radavie. It's really good to see you.
I'm so happy to see you too. Very
Thank
nice to be interacting here.
Thank you so much for being a part of the Art of Life project. It's really good to have you on board. Just to give you a reminder and to give everyone else a reminder, the Art of Life project was really set up to explore what it means to make our life an intentional work of art and how we bring our consciousness into making our life a work of art. And just to give everyone an introduction of you, I met Radavie really recently and absolutely adore you in the short time that I've met you. Radavie is a shaman. She's also an intuitive, and she uses divine energy to help people to heal the wounded inner child, basically. And that is a lot of the work that she does is very much focused on that area of working with the inner child of the adult, basically, and integrating that in a powerful and in a whole way into the person and their lives. So welcome, and really, really, really lovely to have you on board. So with the first question, when you think of making your life an active work of art, what comes up in your mind with regards to that?
The first thing always is my devotion to the divine, which I commonly call spirit.
Hmm.
A lot of people have different names for that amazing energy, and it's the Holy Spirit, the divine God, Mother Divine, soul, whatever one relates to. That's the one that I honor and give credit to be part of my art of life.
Right. So basically you bring the divine energy into so that's speaking to very much about co-creation, and it's speaking to actually really recognizing that the process is an act of co-creation, creating a life with the divine basically on board with you and in your consciousness.
Absolutely, because the way the physical body, being in the physical, is a very very important part of the Holy Spirit divine. Because without us moving into the ability to be able to be seen physically and to act on behalf of the divine, what would the world be here for? Yeah, because we know that this planet has many, many different energies. We are here to learn, grow, evolve through a lot of duality, and so it's really, really important for us to recognize that what came first is the Holy Spirit, and here we are now, and to be serving in unity. Yes, it's beautiful.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's actually quite definitely something that we need to recognize is the fact that we are in a co-creative process, and we're not sort of on our own, just living our lives. Is basically if we invite that element of ourselves, that divine element in us, of ourselves to inform our lives, it opens things up into a whole different spectrum.
Absolutely. And as you're speaking about that, what came to mind is how co-creating also is not just between the divine and the individual, but with others too.
Yes.
Others who are really, really open to serve. What a powerhouse that is when each person's vibration comes together who serves in different ways.
Absolutely. And when there's that recognition that's part of the journey of being human, really is to be in service to others, and making that contribution wholeheartedly from a place of love is exceptional, really.
It's not a competition. There's no competition once we live here.
Absolutely, that is so true. That's so true. Because that heart energy that informs things, there's a recognition that you are me and I am you, and there's a softness in that. There's a softness that allows for an exchange to happen in a really natural way.
Yes, yes, absolutely. You probably, as much as I have, experienced at times where you meet a stranger and you are in love. I mean, the love that is so precious here that it stimulates something, and you both are feeling it. And for me, at times I walk away. There's no need to find out where are you, what's your address. I want to connect. It was just a recognition of the Holy Spirit.
Absolutely, absolutely. And those are so beautiful. So when you think of making your work your art, because your work is or for me definitely work is exactly what we were speaking about previously, that element of service to another. And also it's our planetary contribution. It's what we actually give of ourselves that contributes our energy to, the world around us. So when you think of making your work your art, what comes up for you with that?
It takes me back to the beginning of my memory here, this lifetime, and how the difficulties that I felt, that I had to go through my own traumas, my own pain, my own wounds that I had disconnected from, and recognizing through life's journey that it was imperative to heal that. And that was my soul's calling. And I realized how much the work of art is about healing the childhood conditioning.
That's a huge one.
Yes, so that, I really want to express so much that we're all coming with the treasure. I refer to it as a treasure box in here. And all the layers from our childhood conditioning has covered that. We're not aware of the values and the things that our souls can journey a blueprint has brought in. So with my own experience, this is what happened, and I know it's the same with a lot with how it works. Working through the childhood conditioning, started to release and remove all these emotional imprints that was causing my beliefs and my feelings. And then I started to realize I had a lot more intuition, a lot more clairvoyance, and all of that within me. And I encourage people, everyone is intuitive. Everyone has something that they brought in to serve the rest of the people.
Absolutely. And basically, that's what I love about the work that you do, particularly that healing of the inner child. Because to a large extent, and when we talk about healing the inner child, as children, we can sometimes have things happen to us that, is quite painful, sometimes quite shocking. And in that moment, we draw an instant conclusion about life, about people, about the world around us. And until we challenge those conclusions, we never really stop acting out of that, that conclusion that we made as a child. And as a result, sometimes that can completely hold us back and completely put blockages in our pathway. And it's not until we start to explore that element of ourselves and start actually healing that element of ourselves, which is basically a lot of where your work comes from, then we kind of, completely integrate the wholeness of who we are, and really shine from that wholeness, basically.
Absolutely. I've seen such wonderful expansion in my clients over the years I've been doing this. And one of the things too that commonly happens is that the essence that we are, when we're here, we're really here for one thing, basically, to give love and receive it back. But when we are open with their essence and innocence, giving love, because when we look at little kittens and little animals, they are so innocent. You think, oh, they're so precious. We are feeling that. So what happens many times, and I've seen it so many times in clients, when I'm going through the inner child, they're going through the inner child healing, there is a part of themselves that they hid away not to get affected by the conditioning years. And so one of the deep suffering in people is losing that, not remembering, but they feel I'm not fully present and connected.
Yes, yes. And to a large extent is bringing the awareness to that, because sometimes like you say, there's people experience that there's a missing part of their puzzle. There's something that's not quite right, something that's kind of like slightly lacking, but they can't exactly put their finger on it. And when that's actually shown up as the fact that it is that inner child element, because a lot of times people are told that there are certain things that we need to be and to act in certain ways in order to be adult, which means a lot of times shoving the child away. And likewise, it's kind of, when something shocking happens, in childhood, there's an element of us that grows up really, really fast. And we let go of our childish ways because of the fact that we had to, it's a survival instinct. So really, with this kind of work that you're doing, pulling those elements back into line, and aligning them to the here and now and the present, is so important and so beautiful as well.
Yeah, it was my soul's calling, and I could never imagine ever doing anything else. And some people, what I've been thinking about is that we're really actors. We don't realize how much we're actors because what we're doing, we're expressing the pain of the child inside, and it creates blocks. And we think, many people say, I keep, having the same kind of relationship over and over. Or my boss, they represent something because they have a little bit of behavior in them that reminds the child inside about something that happened in the past.
Yes.
Fascinating for me to watch.
Absolutely. And also it must be fascinating when you're able to experience that alignment that somebody has, where they've integrated that child back in, and feel the expansiveness of having done that.
Love it, love it. And one of my God-given gifts too in my treasure box is to be able to see the underlying issues when people are speaking to me. So there's a lot of psychological, emotional component that brings the wholeness through my service.
Yes. Um, and then when you think of basically tapping into the inner creator, because that's a big one, and I think we actually are ending the last question is really where the first question was, with that co-creative process. But sometimes there needs to be a cultivation and an active element where we actually tap into that, creator element of ourselves. How is your way of doing it?
That's a very good question. I'm called. There's this inner calling that takes me to maybe one classroom with spiritual groups, and something in me knows when it ends. For no reason, I walk away and I go into something else. And then there's an overall view of me looking at all of this and feeling the magic and the importance of having done those classrooms. So my special desire has always been about God. About God. I wanted to be a nun when I was in Catholic boarding school. I wanted, when I read Yogananda's book, I wanted to be a nun after my children grew up at this place. I wanted to be a missionary in Africa and other countries. And I stopped and I said, wait a minute. All those components was really about serving God. And because that has always been in me. So the more people open themselves to their spirit, to their learning more about themselves, really, really going into learning more about themselves, the unfoldment of their soul's blueprint will start to show them that no psychic can really tell Our psyche can tell you this is who you're supposed to be, what you should be doing. But if you don't take action, nothing is going to ever happen.
Well, the point is, I think to a large extent, we are constantly co creating. And I think to a large extent, sometimes people forget that. And it's so comforting when people can think that, their life is completely lined up and mapped out and they don't really have any involvement in it. They just need to, just walk that path. But really and truly, that's not the way it is. It's kind of like in every moment, you are creating that moment. You're creating yourself in that moment. And so to a large extent, when we and I say creating, it's more like co-creating because there's something that animates you that you can never really explain. And that, that's basically what you're using in that whole creative process. But I think when there's that recognition that, you are in this creative process and though somebody might be able to show you a guideline of where your future might be headed, at the end of the day, you are creating that future. So it's really that recognition of that more than anything else.
Yes, very much so. And, God gave us a free will, and we can hear things and we can make a choice. Life is always about choices. But we have to be really careful about the beliefs because the beliefs can really, really have so much of offense that we start to really think the belief is true. It's not up in our minds, it's not up in our past, it's about in here.
So beautiful, so beautiful. Radavie, thank you so much. This is, as always, the exchanges that I have with you are so rich, and you've got such a beautiful voice of experience that I find actually really, stunning to interact with. Thank you so much for being a part of this.
I am so happy. I love being here. I love being supporting this and supporting the passion that I see and what's happening, the foundation that is being created and formed here.
Thank you. Thank you.